Today I'm continuing my look back at the past 5 years of Star Wars canon content. I'll put a link in the cards to the first video in the series all about the movies, but for now, we're going to talk about the books of what I'm calling Phase 1 of Disney Star Wars. This video is going to focus on the novel's actual story content. I won't be covering reference books or anything like that. I'm also not going to talk about every book that was released because there are a lot of them, but I did want to highlight a few of my favorites, talk about patterns that I noticed overall, what worked for me, what didn't, and my hopes for the future. Star Wars books have always been really interesting and important to me. Growing up in the 90s, they were the backbone of the Star Wars universe. I mean, we weren't getting movies, the Clone Wars wasn't out, gaming was still pretty light at the time, so the books and the comics were the driving force behind the continuing Star Wars narrative. There were multiple trilogies and series that got to create new characters and explore them, let us fall in love with them over years and years of content. And that's what I think I've been missing in this current era of Star Wars books. We've only really had one trilogy in Aftermath. The Thrawn books were connected, but not in the same way that the Legends Thrawn trilogy was. For the most part, these past 5 years, the books have served as support or tie-in material to the movies, the TV shows, the video games, or even Galaxy's Edge. And I don't mean that the books weren't good. I happen to have enjoyed most everything that came out, but the stories that really stood out to me were the ones that got to do their own thing. Alphabet Squadron is a book that swooped in last year and really surprised me. It's the start of a new trilogy about all new characters that I instantly fell in love with. And yeah, the fact that they're all starfighter pilots certainly doesn't hurt. That's one of my favorite aspects of the Star Wars universe, but I would like to see more of that kind of storytelling. In these next 3 years without any new Star Wars movies, I would love to see the books pick up some of that slack. We still have no idea what Project Luminous really is. There are rumors, but the thing that we do know is that it's a collection of books and comics and maybe more that's all designed to tell one cohesive story, and that sounds awesome. I'm hopeful Project Luminous will take place in some unfamiliar territory. I want to see the books have a chance to make the galaxy feel larger, to expand things, rather than take a deep dive on one specific character. We got a lot of books in Phase 1 titled Ahsoka, or Thrawn, or Phasma. And again, I don't want to make it sound like those books were bad, because they're not. Thrawn is one of my favorite new canon books. Phasma was also so weird and different and engaging, and it gave me the character Cardinal, who is one of my favorite new characters. And then Blackspire was like a pseudo-sequel to Phasma, which made both books even better. So I don't want to say that what the books are currently doing is wrong. I think it's working for the most part. But what I miss from Legends is the books having a chance to really tell these big, epic stories that span years and multiple books, stories that really changed the galaxy. And maybe that's something I just have to let go of. I mean, the Star Wars universe has changed a lot. We're getting more Star Wars movies, we're getting more and more live action and animated series, so yeah, the books have kind of fallen down the totem pole a little bit. I understand why they've taken on more of a supporting role. I just miss reading a Star Wars book and really feeling the impact that it had on the galaxy. So yeah, I hope Project Luminous gets to do something like that, and I'm thrilled Alphabet Squadron is a trilogy. I want to see more of those. But for the books that we did get in Phase 1 these past 5 years, smaller in scope though they may have been, I think for the most part they were pretty great. I've been introduced to new authors that I now wholeheartedly trust with Star Wars. Claudia Gray, Delilah Dawson, Christy Golden, to name a few. Alexander Freed is someone that I feel like I didn't get when I read Battlefront Twilight Company, but then I read the Rogue One novelization and then Alphabet Squadron, and I feel like I've grown to love him over reading those 3 novels. Rebecca Rowanhorse wrote Resistance Reborn, and she treated it like a love letter to everything else that we got outside of the movies. It felt like a satisfying season finale for anyone that had read all the comics and all the books and played the video games. It was just so wonderful. I also want to give special mention to the book Lost Stars and all of the other young adult books that have come out under the Star Wars banner. I had this really unfair assumption about YA that it was just something that wasn't for me, that I wouldn't like it. I picked up Lost Stars because, I had this channel and I should read everything that comes out, and it blew me away. It is one of my favorite Star Wars books, and I was lucky enough to talk to Claudia Gray at DragonCon, and I told her about that, and she was like, yeah, all young adult means is that the story is about young adults growing up. And I mean, that's exactly what Star Wars is. So I don't know, if you have that same kind of assumption that YA just isn't for you, I'd encourage you to pick up some of the young adult books and get over that bias, because I definitely had it. And I'm so glad that I kind of opened up this new territory of storytelling for me, because some of the YA books have been really, really special. Before wrapping up today, I'm just going to give my recommendations on where to start in Star Wars books, because I have people ask me that all the time. What's a good jumping off point if I've never read a Star Wars book before? If you want to stick to the canon, Thrawn, Lost Stars, and Alphabet Squadron have been my 3 favorites. I think they're all tied with each other, but you really can't go wrong with anything by Claudia Gray, Delilah Dawson, or Christy Golden. The Aftermath trilogy is a pretty good introduction. It's probably the biggest story that's been told in the books so far, and it ties in pretty well with the movies. And finally, I'll give a shout out to From a Certain Point of View, which was like a surprise release. It's a collection of 40 short stories retelling A New Hope from the point of view of background characters. It's so much fun, and I really hope they do one for The Empire Strikes Back this year. But let me know what you thought of the past 5 years worth of Star Wars books in the comments. I'm going to talk about the comics of Phase 1 in tomorrow's video. Until then, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and consider checking out our Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.